Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of What's Going On. I'm Pastor Katie here at First United Methodist, and I'm glad you could join me for this episode. In this episode, I'm going to spend most of my time just doing a recap of the town hall meeting and sort of my own thoughts, and talk a little bit more about the t-shirt design and making sure that there's some clarity around that and what to expect moving forward with that. And so the town hall happened this past Sunday after worship. We had about, I think I counted 62 people that were in attendance, which is a great turnout. So thank you to everyone who came. And for those of you who weren't able to, one, by all means, watch this recap and get kind of my take on it, but also know that it was live streamed as well. So where you found this podcast on our YouTube channel, you can find the recording of the live stream of the town hall meeting and see it for yourself if you are so interested in doing so. I want to say a special thanks to the leadership team for really hosting the town hall and for their leadership and transparency, at least our best efforts at transparency as we move forward together as the church. Dave Corneman, who is the new chair of the leadership team, every year the chair changes. And so Dave Corneman has stepped into that role for 2024, and the leadership team elected Eric Lancaster as the vice chair. So that it is reasonable to expect that Eric will take on the chair for 2025. That's kind of how we've set up that system that gets selected from the leadership team itself, one of the people who are involved. So Dave really led the meeting on Sunday, and again, I thank him for his leadership and guidance for the church as we move forward this year. There were two big agenda items for the town hall meeting, and then various questions and follow-ups going along with those. The first is around budgeting. And so we heard from Dave as a member of the finance team of our leadership team. Our leadership team has people that are kind of earmarked for finance, people earmarked for trustees, for SPPRC, and then a few sort of at-large members. Dave is on the finance side of the leadership team, and shared that at the beginning of 2023, so the beginning of last year, or at the end of 2022, really, the budget approved for 2023 had a shortfall in it of about $50,000. That's not entirely unheard of. This is a practice that this church has done in the past, that you do the best you can, trying to balance what we have been told people are planning to give versus sort of what the needed expenses are of the church. And so we expected to end 2023 with a shortfall of around $50,000 based on what we projected to take in versus our budget. Through not only the work of finance and bringing things to light for the congregation and asking to increase their giving toward the end of the year, along with our incredible staff that really took it to heart of, what is it that I need to have for the ministry to function, and what are things that are not needs right now. And so not spending all of what had been budgeted for them. We actually ended the year with a much smaller shortfall than we had anticipated. It was still, I think, I want to say like 28 or so thousand that we ended the year short, but that is a smaller number than 50,000, which is what had been projected. And so that was, I don't know if good news is the right word, but it's better news than what we had anticipated. So I will take it. And again, we are not in the red as a church because we have funds that we put away in the Dakotas Foundation when we've had excessive funds in the past. One of the things that our at the time church council and our finance committee did was to put away funding that we didn't need in the moment for times like this. And so we were able to end the year paying all of our bills and everything as we needed. And so I just want you to hear that we are not broke as a church, but we are in a trend that is not sustainable moving forward for too terribly long. So this year, at the end of the year, the finance and leadership team had a really difficult time approving the budget because they had done a lot of work to try to take out any sort of excess funding that had been budgeted and really tried to see what is it that we absolutely need in order to function as the church and have a budget that reflects that. Now, we did have some costs go up for 2024, including our insurance for the building. We were underinsured, and our insurance company informed us last year that for 2024, our insurance would have a significant hike because of that. And that was so the leadership team kind of looked into it, and it was basically just something we had to sort of swallow and do. There are certain expenses that we don't really get say in, things like utilities and things like that. And so looking around at our budget and what do we really need to do the ministry that we do in the way that we do it? The other thing that you kind of heard at the end of the year was a plea to, one, turn in your estimates of giving and to consider raising your estimates of giving. And one of the things I'm so proud is that our leadership team really took it to heart that we're not going to ask you to do anything that we aren't willing to do ourselves. And so they came prepared in that ask, having already discussed among themselves that we are going to step into that, leading the church, saying, we will do this first. And so the leadership team came together and increased all of their pledging by an average of 11%. And I just find that incredible and exactly what I would expect of when we moved to the leadership team model. I know I got pushback around, well, why should we have to apply to be on leadership team, and that's a small number. But what it has done has created a group of people who are so incredibly committed and understand the importance of the role that they are serving when they are on leadership team and have taken it to heart that we are the leaders of this church and how we lead matters, and that we must show the church our investment and ask then that for them to invest. And so I am incredibly proud. And that was the leadership team at the end of December, which is a slightly different leadership team. Again, we had some people come off in December and some new people added. And then in our meeting in January, when we were looking to our other big ticket item around the roof, the leadership team did the same thing of, if we are asking the church to pledge and to give toward the roof, it is something we must do first. And so the leadership team again stepped up to the plate. 2 months in a row, they stepped up to the plate and said, we will lead and we will make our pledges and our gifts first, so that the church sees that this is something we are invested in and something they should be invested in as well. Again, we are not asking the church to do anything that we ourselves are not willing to do first. And so I couldn't be more proud of the leadership team we have in place. I believe that God has blessed us with these people and with their heart and their vision for moving forward. And so I can't say enough good things about the people that have stepped into those roles, because it is not just, attending a meeting for them. It is an investment in the church. And that's exactly what we were hoping for when we moved to this model. And so one of the things, so we looked at the budget, pulled it as best as we could. I was a part of that process, really looking, line by line, and they went as detailed as not only what did they spend last year, but what is the average of what the different line items spent in the last 3 years, because the budget sometimes was padded a little bit, and it was clear that that maybe in that line item, that budget was never spent, but it just was requested year after year. And so it really tightened up the budget. And we did our best at trying to get a more accurate picture of what we realistically were going to take in for 2024. Even doing that work, the budget still ended up with a deficit of 50 some thousand dollars. So even as we dropped the budget and tried to raise what we could for what we were going to take in, we still are finding ourselves in that $50,000 range deficit. Now, the reality is, I don't know that we're going to just by our regular run-of-the-mill giving over the year have a cut in that gap like we did this past year. Partially because, again, the budget is a more accurate reflection of what we need to spend. And we did try our best to get a better sense of what we were going to take in. And some of that has to do with what some of the people who have left the church, we don't have their giving anymore, and things like that. So one of the things for our town halls, and we talked about it in this one, and we'll continue to talk about it, is what can we do to increase our giving? Because really there's only two ways to solve that problem. There is lessening the budget somehow or increasing the giving, or somehow meeting those in the middle. And so we're going to be talking about stewardship this year and really trying to encourage that. I think also, I'm going to be talking with the foundation about coming and educating us around estate giving and things like that, because those things have been really big blessings for us in the past. And maybe that's not something you've heard about or understand how to do it. And so I'm going to invite the foundation at some point to come in and to talk about that and what that looks like, and to kind of plant those seeds as well as an alternative way of giving. The other thing that came out of the town hall meeting, or that was shared in the town hall meeting, is the conference has given us a grant. It's a one-time grant, and I'll share a little bit more about it as I shared at the town hall meeting. So when the disaffiliations began to happen, the trustees of the conference, so just like our church has trustees, our conference also has trustees, and the conference trustees were tasked with discerning what the terms of the disaffiliation were going to be. And one of the terms was that churches who were disaffiliating needed to be up to date on their apportionment giving from 2020 forward to the point of their disaffiliation. There was a practice for a while of churches who were unhappy with things happening in the Greater United Methodist Church, deciding that they just weren't going to pay their apportionments. It was their way of sort of sticking it to the man. That is my own way of interpreting that. But they felt that they didn't want to pay in, and so they were withholding apportionments out of their displeasure with things, which is, I guess, another conversation for another day, but my comments on that is two wrongs don't make a right. And anyway, so part of that is churches had to pay those apportionment dollars that they had refused. Now, the flip side of that is they got to walk away with all of their property for $1. So if you felt like, oh, that's unfair, they really made out better in the end. And that money, that back pay of apportionments, went into a fund at the conference level. And that fund was designated to support churches who would feel economic impacts of the disaffiliation process. So churches who maybe split because of disaffiliation votes, or churches like us that did not have a disaffiliation vote, but still had significant numbers of people leaving, enough so that we feel it in our budget in particular. And so I had a conversation with our district superintendent, Rebecca Traves, and out of that conversation, she was able to secure for us a grant from that fund at the conference level. And that grant is equal to our pension and something amount that the church pays. And so that's $28,000. And maybe that's where that number comes in that I said before. Anyway, the leadership team has chosen to set that money aside for now, and hasn't decided where to apply that money, that grant. Again, it's a one-time grant. It's not something we expect to get again in the future. It's not something we have to pay back, and there's no stipulations on how we use it. So there's different possibilities of putting that in the foundation again to help be a buffer at the end of the year when our budget might not meet our giving might not meet our budgetary needs. So like, that's a possibility. Another possibility is a portion or some of that going to our roof fund, which again, I'll talk about more in a minute. But just know that we have been given that. And that is, again, we pay our apportionments 100%. If we did not do that, the conference would not support us in that way. But the conference is supporting us, is seeing our needs and doing what they can to help us, which is wonderful. And so just know that in future town halls, and again, town halls are something that we plan to do 3 to 4 times a year, every year, as a way of having opportunity for clarity, to learn what the leadership team has on their docket, for the leadership team to hear from the church. But know in the future, we're going to have some tough conversations around stewardship and around budget. Unfortunately, if we are looking to cut the budget, moving forward, the only place really to do that is staffing. Our budget is majority around our staff costs. But in order to cut staffing, we have to have people in the church willing to step up and fill the roles that the staff covers. And so those are tough conversations. I hope to not have to get to that. I hope that we can raise up in our stewardship enough to avoid that. But do know that those are things coming down the line this year that we can't afford to push those conversations off anymore. The other big ticket item on Town Hall was the roof project. One of the big things that people wanted to know is what is happening with the roof and why does it cost so much? Basically, the roof that is over our education wing. So running from the north side of the church, kind of where the old office area used to be in our upper room, through the lounge, and then through the education wing where we have our confirmation rooms, our bell room, our quilting room, that whole section is leaking significantly. There has been some massive leaks both in the upper room area and all the way down to the quilters room when we've had some big storms. When we have a lot of snow as we do, that roof is flat. It's not pitched at all. And so water just stands there and then trickles into the building, which is a problem. And so the project is one, motivated by the fact that we have a leaking roof, which you never want to have, and two, to fix it properly, not just to put a banded. I say that because my son says banded instead of band-aid. Not to put a band-aid on it, but to fix the problem, which means pitching the roof. And so the trustees have been working on getting, quotes and different things for that. And at the end of the year, the leadership team approved to move forward on that project, partially because there was a time frame on the proposal that we got from A Plus Construction. One of the questions asked, which was a very valid question after what we've been through with the what is it? Playground in the parking lot. Is the company bonded and insured? And the answer is yes, they are. This is a company we have also worked with previously. They've actually done some pro bono work for us as well. We feel very confident in their work and their follow through. Anyway, there was a 6-month guarantee on the prices that were quoted to us, and so we needed to accept that bid in December before 2024. Otherwise, the cost of I think materials alone was going to go up $6,000 to $7,000. So in an effort to save that money, we approved that project and that bid, and then took money from our reserves in order to pay. So we have already paid half of the cost. The total cost is around $140,000. That includes the work on the education portion, but also some work on the roof above where I'm sitting currently in the office area, which is another flat roof. There was some damage that was incurred during the work on the roof above the sanctuary in 2020 and some various leaking spots. Now, this doesn't need a total overhaul like the other portion does, but it does need attention as well. So the total cost of that was around 140,000. Now we have had some money in memorials that have come in. Again, when I talked about bringing the foundation in to talk about memorial giving, estate giving, things like that, we've had people who've chosen to do that and to leave part of their estate to the church. And we have taken some of that money uh, to go toward this project. And that's wonderful because that's money that has come in and there's no expectation for us to kind of refill that money. That is just gifted money to us to use however the church saw fit. And so we use some of that and then some of our reserves. So you might be asking, why do I see on the thermometers 100,000 versus 140 if 140 is the total cost? And that is because of those endowment gifts that what we're trying to do when we're raising the money is we know that we're going to be pulling from our reserves in order to pay it up front. So we're not going to be taking out loans or anything like that. But the fundraising is to fill those reserves back up to pay for it and not use all the money that we have reserved, again, because we are using that money at the end of the year to help supplement our giving in order to meet our budgetary needs. And so it's 100,000 that we're looking to replenish our reserves with that we're taking out to pay for things, and then we're looking to replenish it. um, so part of Town Hall was talking about fundraising options for that as a church, we need to come together not only to support it and to invest in it ourselves, but also to work towards some fundraising. The leadership team also did discuss fundraising options in their meeting in January, and there are one that is definitely on the docket is going to happen is we are going to be doing a rummage sale here at the church during the citywide rummage sales, which happen, I believe, at the end of April or the very beginning of May. We have people sort of already working on it. Jane Gilmore, who is what I've been told is the guru of rummage sales, is kind of taking lead and point. Carla Hummel, our missions person, is also going to be very involved, and we've got some others. The big thing we need from you is stuff, especially if you have big ticket items that we can put on the rummage sale that you've been like, I've been meaning to get rid of that thing for a while. I just didn't want to do the work. This would be a great opportunity for you to give something that has some value that can bring in some money for the church. But also know that other things are welcome as well, including clothing. That was a big one. We did a rummage sale last year that we did not include clothing, but we will this time. We know that trying to donate clothing to Goodwill is kind of overrun. And if you haven't given to the clothing drive for the United Way clothing closet, they kind of only take that certain times of the year, but know that this will be an opportunity to do it here. Keep on the lookout for more information as it becomes available, especially when you can start bringing items in. Also know that we will be picking up items if that is something that you require, that we can come pick up, especially big things if you have no way of getting it here. So just be on the lookout. As I know more, you will know more. The other one we're looking at is doing a pancake feed, bringing in Crisp cakes. And so we're just right now doing some research on when that's going to come on the calendar and things like that. Do also note that there is going to be a couple of mission fundraising opportunities, and that's separate from the roof fundraisers. The mission fundraising goes to support the missions of the church. One of the ways that we cut down on the budget of the church was that instead of just budgeting our missions, we're going to be fundraising our missions, partially because we want to know what in particular the church cares about. And if so, in the past, if you gave to the church, some of your giving would go to missions. It does not right now. your giving toward missions is all going to be apart from the offering that you give. And so make sure that you're giving toward the missions that you care about. But we do have one scheduled for March 10th here in the church. And again, that is, in particular goes to covering our Loads of Love commitment and some of the other things we have on our docket. So those are a couple of the things. There were some really great ideas thrown out. The big thing is to, if you have an idea for something, be willing to be the point person for it, because our staff is run pretty thin as it is, and we just don't have the capacity to take on running these things. That's why we together as the church need to be doing them. But if you have an idea, if you're like, I think this would be great, and you want to just run it by me to be like, do you think that's something I could just run with? Please do that. I would love to know about it. I would love to be able to say, yes, that's going to work. That's going to fit. Go for it. Do it. But just don't come to me and say, so here you go, Pastor Katie, you do this thing that I came up with, because that won't fly. Instead, it's going to be, Pastor Katie, I'd love to do this thing. Does that fit within the vision of the church? When would be the right time to do it? Do I have your blessing? That will fly. One of the others that I'm hearing whisperings about is having to do with men's night out, and there many men who smoke meat. So I'm really hoping whatever comes out of that happens. Because I will tell you, they eat good at men's night out. And so if you're part of a group, what could your group do to help meet this need in raising money and funds for our roof? The other thing that I did mention is that we have put in an application with the Foundation's Builders Club to also help fund the roof, and we just haven't heard anything about that. But again, if and when I do, you will know about it. So the other thing we did at Town Hall and on Sunday was reveal the finalists for the shirt design competition. I just want to be clear about how that process went. For the month of January, we invited people to submit designs, both adults and children, for us to create t-shirts for the church. We did not know how that was going to go. We were just like, let's put it out there, let's see. And I was just like, I pray that somebody submits a design. Like that's where I was when we started. I did not have any clue how creative all of you are. And so we received many designs, and it kind of became a little bit overwhelming because they were all so good. And so what we chose to do is I took all of the designs back to the visioning team that had the idea for putting this t-shirt design out to the congregation in light of our new mission and vision statements. And I had them do the initial voting. And I told them, pick your top 3 designs in the adult category and the youth category. And from that voting, that is what went before the congregation. So I know for some of you, you were disappointed if your design didn't make it past that first round, but just know that it didn't mean you had a bad design, because all of them were amazing. And I was like, I don't know how we're going to choose. So much so that I will tell you that after a week of voting, so we voted on Sunday after church and in the town hall, and then on Wednesday night for 605, we had our children and youth voting as well. That all of you also felt like all of the designs were great. So even with just getting to choose one design from each, there were 3 designs on both the adult designs and the children's designs that were within 1 vote of each other. And so what I've done is I've now sent those back to the visioning team and said, okay, they're too close for me to even say that there is a clear winner. There just wasn't. There was no runaway design that was like, this is clearly the one for us. There were 3 on each of those. And so the visioning team is now looking at maybe having a design in the front and a design in the back. So once the visioning team kind of settles on what those will be based on your votes, we're also going to be reaching out to what is the cost going to be and things like that. And then we'll reveal it to the church when we're ready for orders to be taken. But just know that if you submitted designs, you're all amazing. They were all incredible. I would be proud to wear any design that was submitted, and I'm excited for you to see what the ultimate designs are. And especially thank you to the visioning team, because they have the incredibly difficult task of making those final decisions. because I don't know, if I had my way, I would have just been, let's one of each, and I will wear them every day. Um, but I'm excited, and I hope that you do choose. And I want to put this out there as well. You can choose to purchase, if you really like the design that came from the children and youth, and you want that as your shirt as an adult, by all means do that. If you want to buy one of each, by all means do that. Um, but I just wanted to be able to highlight that we've got incredible adults and incredible children and youth who are understanding who we are as a church, and invested enough to make these designs and to make something that is that we can all be proud to wear. And so we are in that process right now. So it might be a couple weeks before you see the results, and we'll be ready to start taking orders. But I wanted you to be aware that at no point in this process was it a unilateral decision by anybody, including me, that it's always been a group project stemming from the visioning team. And so they are really the ones taking ownership of it and doing those hard work and hard decisions, because y'all made it hard by being so talented and creative. And we want to say thank you. February, our big mission focus will be the Sweetheart Tree for River City Domestic Violence Center. Next week's podcast is I've invited, let me say that one more time. I invited the director of River City, Cassie Nagel, to come and have a conversation with me about the work that they are doing and the ways in which we can partner with them. And so you're going to definitely want to make sure you catch next week's episode as well. If you ever have questions, again, about what leadership team is doing, about where we're headed as a church, I would love to visit with you. Please give me a call, send me a text, send me an email. I'm more than happy to go have coffee with you just to visit, and no questions are off limits. So with that, I hope to see you and worship very soon. Thank you again for being awesome church. I'm so excited to be a part of the work that God is doing here in Yankton and beyond. Until next time, God bless. Thank you for listening to this episode of What's Going On. We'd love to have you join us for worship here at the church on Sundays at 10 a.m. You can also find us online via our website at firstumcyankton.org or search for us on YouTube.